Hi everybody, welcome to Chapter 4 for our web marketing class. We're going to be looking at some kind of the direct and database foundations involved in marketing, sort of ways that the marketing on the internet can be used to be an interactive response medium, and also different ways that you can take existing internet channels and relate them to other things. I think this is a good chapter. It's one that you want to have your book present because a lot of what I'm going to be referring to in this lecture are the graphs that are in the charts that are in the book, and I want you to be able to see and understand those as we work through this chapter. So the first slide asks us, in what ways is the internet a direct response medium or channel? And it's important that you note that the internet is the ultimate source of interactivity. It matters because this means that you can get direct feedback based on the goods and services that you provide, and you can also give somebody else direct feedback on the goods and services they provide. There are obviously positives to this, there's obviously negatives to it, but that's good if you're trying to market a product early on and you can grow it in a significant manner. So anything that's interactive marketing is interactive, information-driven, and immediate and involving. The key one that I think matters is the notion of immediacy, because you don't get that in a traditional marketing plan. But if something's on the internet, you want it to be immediate feedback. So if you look in our textbook at figure 4.2a, which is on page 83, they go over the story of Cheer and how Cheer basically moved to this sort of direct marketing approach. One of the things that I found out particularly interesting in this is that even though they had the advertisement that was online and accessible to all stakeholders, they enabled people to print out coupons that they could use in a store. So it kept the coupon medium that the people that would be buying Cheer would be using, because they're going to be your traditional older, in theory, they would be older people with children or people in their 30s or 40s who were used to clipping coupons. So then they had access to the internet where they could print out coupons, so instead of clipping them, they're now going and they're printing them. And that's one of the reasons you'll see so many places still have opportunities for printing coupons online. So that was one of their models that they used. So that's what I, essentially said. It kind of, they created their own marketing strategy using it. They made an internet-specific commercial to promote the product. But then again, right here, you could download coupons, you could print coupons, and you could have samples directly provided to you. And that was a direct response medium that you could then use in stores. So that was a great approach that they used. And they were one of the first companies that did that. So how do you respond and how do you change your marketing strategies? Well, as always, you do it through acquisition. We've said this already. That is a no-brainer. Then you convert your strategies, meaning if you go to traditional paper or newspaper, you convert them to an online model, slowly or rapidly, whatever you want. It doesn't really matter. It's whatever's better to your benefit. And then you use that model to try to keep customer value and growth. It's easy, it's simple, it's a basic strategy, and all marketing does this. The difference is we're just adding in technology into the equations. So some of the other things that that we talk about, particular strategies that are involved in the proceedings. Basically, these are slightly different from your 4 P's of marketing that you've learned about in your other classes. But this is the idea that anything related to the products comes in the form of an offer. The actual vehicle that you're using is your list. That's your list server, or however you're going to get everything to people. The medium that you're using, whether it's a commercial, whether it's a link on Facebook, the creative way that you're executing it so people tend to remember it, and the service and support that you're trying to provide. In a timely manner, too, think about every year how people wait for the Super Bowl commercials. You're seeing now over the last 5 to 10 years that there's been a lot of Super Bowl commercials that have said, continue our story online. That lets them continue to market their product to you in an immediate fashion, and it's also very direct to you as a consumer. It's a smart strategy. Before I change the slide, then again, none of you are probably going to be able to spend $1.6 million on a commercial for the Super Bowl. If you can, that's great. If I had $1.6 million, I would not be spending it on a Super Bowl commercial. Maybe you're different than me. So if it is a direct response, there is a call to action involved in it. That means that there's a definite plan and there's a definite vision that they're trying to do, and that's what the goal of the call to action plan is. So what do you really want people to do when they're using the internet? Well, you want to get them on the site longer. So if you're doing a television ad that says go to the internet, that keeps them on the site longer, and the longer they're on the site, the more possibility there is for them to spend money, which is the end goal. If they want more information, you're also providing it to them in a timely manner that makes them spend money. So the end goal of all of this is spending money. If you can find a way to create a strategy that enables people to spend money, you've been successful. So we give you a couple examples from the textbook, and I think what's funny about this, and this is on page 87, is I keep using Netflix as an example throughout the first few chapters, and it was before I even went really in depth in this textbook. But in terms of a company that uses a call to action, I mean, gotta be Netflix. The banners everywhere, they switch their marketing strategy. If you leave them for 3 to 6 months, they offer you a free trial. If any of you have Sirius XM radio, you know kind of their strategy behind their call to action. You cancel, then they call you back a day later and say, we're going to give you a special 5-month offer. Which reminds me, I have to cancel my Sirius radio account very soon, because those of you watching this video, if you don't cancel your Sirius radio account after the trial period, they owe you a lot of money. So it's just like a life lesson if that's something that comes your way, but that just reminded me that. But notice too with Toyota, they tell you to visit their website, but if you go to this website link, it'll give you pictures of all the different models that they have to offer, normally starting with the highest end and working their way down. And that's what most of these companies will do. So brands have to be trusted. How do you establish trust? Just by being active on the market and in the organization for a long time. So front end versus back end is important. They both complement each other, but if you want people to come back, it leads to fulfillment, customer service, customer support, and help. I said this throughout our first few lectures. I'm considerably cynical to this stuff, not maybe in a service area, but knowing how I shop and how consumer behavior of people my age, and if you've learned about it in a consumer behavior course, our target market, I'm 34 years old, but the market that I would be classified in is a market between 21 to 35, which is probably a lot of you in this class, or you're closely approaching that market. Our types of marketing, we're more concerned with front end. We want stuff that's advertised, that shows a cheap price, an efficient way to get it to us, and we want to make sure that it's from a loyal and legitimate place. Customer service, customer support, and help, if we get the product, we're going to be happy we got the product, and if we find it cheaper somewhere else next time, we might do it. So that's more for the retailing aspect, but in terms of the, I guess I would say, the service aspect, you're probably more worried about back end, because you're going to want to visit a restaurant that gave you a great meal, a great experience. You hired people to clean your house. They came in, they did a good job to babysit your children. I would say that's more back end. Front end, we're looking at retail, and mind you, I'm presenting something that's different than the book. I'm taking a cynical approach to this. I'm more front end when it comes to retail, because that's kind of what you have to be. And I think that our demographic and our population has shifted to that model. So if there's a good back end, you have a satisfied customer, meaning you fixed their problems or you've avoided problems. If they're satisfied, they're likely to come back. Once again, a lot of this stuff is a bunch of no-brainers. So the customer lifetime value, this is a big concept that they discuss in the book. This is available on page 90. They basically tell you that, you know, each customer has a value, and then once you've established value with them, if you retain them, it's going to take you time to acquire and service another customer, which is another cost that you could potentially face. That's important to note as well. It's why you try to keep the same people, try to keep them interested, try to keep them beneficial. So we give you the equation related to this. Once again, this is not a math course. I'm not going to expect you to do math, but that's the equation that's used. You might find this in one of your accounting classes or in a more quantitative consumer behavior driven course. For those of you that are going on to a four-year degree, past a four-year degree into an MBA, I know I'm talking long-term in advance, consumer behavior at the undergraduate level is normally done open-ended. You create surveys, that sort of thing, product testing. At the MBA level, it's all of this. Consumer behavior is actually a math class in almost every MBA program, and it's more or less like, you're looking at the cost to acquire and retain customers. So it's kind of different. It takes on a different life of its own. But at the undergrad level, you'll see consumer behavior being more survey-generated, qualitative-generated. So you'll probably see this equation in your accounting classes and maybe eventually in a consumer behavior course. So the conceptual framework for customer lifetime value, this was a big, tremendous article that is still used today in research, and I've seen this in my education research because education related to schools. Some of you that have worked in cyber schools, or maybe you went to a cyber school, you have to create value in sending somebody to a cyber school. So I've seen this diagram so many different places, but it's important because it really goes over the steps that you can use to supply to your customers, give them a potential discount on their services, and then keep them and retain them so that they come back and use more resources and reinvest them in your organization. So I give you a baseline consumer lifetime value calculation. This is available on page 91 of the textbook. This is just an example sort of how even if somebody lost customers, but they retained quality customers, they're still going to be showing a profit. In the first year they had 5,000, and then in the third year they had almost half. But the fact that they retained the customers and kept them happy, they're more likely to spend more money. I talked about Amazon a lot in here already. This is another thing with Amazon. I had great experiences so far buying things off of Amazon in terms of Black Friday, holidays, that sort of thing. So I'm likely to give my service to Amazon before I am somebody else, especially too with the Prime membership discount available as well. So when you add a retention program, that improves even more. Because if you're focused on trying to retain your customers, that's going to improve your sales to a level that keeps them stable and keeps them coming back. So you need to find different loyalty methods in order to do that. And we're going to speak about some of those loyalty methods. So another example showing you that you gain through lifetime value with acquiring new programs and changing and adapting to the market. I think that's important to note as well. So one of the questions people always ask is, what can I do to get more customers that are like the best customers I have? I think this is a big idea, and I think this is something you need to consider as well. So some people will ask, is there value on somebody being a Facebook fan? And my argument is no, there's not value on it. So when you send somebody a page and you say, please like my page, and you get 20 or 30 people to like it, that creates some sort of value, but until you can get it up to 300, 400, 500, and different networks and different people like it, and they start suggesting that you like it, then you've created value. So is there value? Yes, but it takes time to gain and appreciate that value as well. So this comes a lot with referrals. People do well if they're loyal to a company, and also if they can recommend the company to others. That's why one of the best things you can do with Facebook is actually use it to write a review and say why people should go and support your company. And if you can get people to do that early on, that's going to help more than just getting people to click on your link and like them. So if you want somebody to increase your value, you need to get loyalty and you need to get referrals and recommendations to build your page. So we noticed this. People that used that value to brand, they were more likely to be favorable if they felt supported, and they recommended the brand, and they found that there was a support on Facebook that permitted them to market the brand. So it's a consideration, but like I said, I think that takes time to build it. So here's another thing too. It's sort of the notion of testing to find what works. That's very important because what I think is an appropriate strategy might not be an appropriate strategy for you. And this is all specific to the type of business that you're running and the type that you want to do. And the book has some good examples, but I have another one that I think is a lot better that they don't talk about. So, give you different types of screens, and they'll say which website are you more likely to visit, which one are you more likely to shop on. It depends. I think each person might have different perceptions of this. This is on page 98 of the textbook, and they show you the difference between the control group and the test group, and then they basically took it, looked at the results, and then that's how they moved forward with their website. So, in order to do that, when you change your creative execution, people, if it's done in a nice way, people are likely to come back and use it. If it's not done in a nice way, it might frustrate people from using the website. I like this idea of the white background because when we're living in a society now where we have to be more ADA compliant. By the second time I teach this course, all these wonderful videos I'm preparing for you have to be transcribed word for word. So basically I have until fall to take these videos and transcribe them. But I have to do that to be ADA compliant. Another thing that increases ADA compliance is white background, because it makes it easier for people to see and read, and for screen readers to be able to pick up on the text. So that's something that if you're designing a web page, you might want to consider a white or a light background for ADA compliance. So as always, you just continue testing. If something works, that's great, but you want to keep pushing and keep trying as well. So I like this in the book. You can certainly visit this on your own. This is on page 99, but it tells you sort of ways in which you can test. We're not going to do this in here. I would love to do this in here, but maybe in future iterations of the course, if I have people design a Facebook page, we'll try this and we'll have them set up two and figure out which one works better. But I mean, obviously with the website you're creating, there's not going to be time to do this. So this one right here, you know, this treatment was a little different because it also showed you the difference between different designs that were more complex, that presented in a different manner. And this study is available on page 100. It's also worthwhile to look at. But it's also the thing, you have to have time and energy to create these different elements and actually test them out with people and see who's most likely to use them. So databases are important. This is a good graph. All of this is true, but I think it's more important to talk about some of the ideas related to databases. So our book talks about HARRAH'S. And let me go into this a little bit with casinos because I love casinos. Growing up in Pittsburgh, unfortunately we didn't have legalized gambling for a long time here. So for me that was, monthly trips to Atlantic City to actually sit down and play poker. And it was interesting to see their methods of retaining customers versus what was in place. And this HARRAH'S model was fascinating over this. So related to what HARRAH'S did, HARRAH'S started off by giving all of their customers that had higher play lots of money. So if they knew that somebody was going to be a high roller based on their status at another casino, they would give them more money. Well, that necessarily didn't work and it didn't retain customers because those customers were already high rollers in another facility, and if HARRAH'S didn't offer them anything unique, why would they go back to HARRAH'S? So HARRAH'S looked more at the people that were playing the penny slots, the people that were going in and logging on hours and time at a casino, investing maybe 80 cents, $1.20 a spin, and focused on them and showed that if they got something simple like free money, a free meal once in a while, they were more likely to keep their loyalty, and it was mostly marketed towards senior citizens. They tried different customers, they found what the market was based on customers, and that worked and that was efficient for them. So I like what HARRAH'S did, and I think it's a good case study. And they did a lot of this with doing it is a data mining strategy. They collected the customer information because anytime you get one of these cards, you are essentially telling that casino, this is what I spend my money on, this is how many times I was on this machine. So if the casino gives you free money for months and months and months at a time, they'll stop if you're not spending that money. And that actually happened to my wife. My wife, when she first started going to a casino, she spent a lot of money the first time she did it. So they gave her tons of money for the next 3 or 4 months, and then after that ended, she was basically not getting the same offers, but she used it in a way that she could get free money out of them, but because she wasn't giving it back, they stopped it. By using your cards, you're giving them that data. So I think that's important. So that database, the key thing I want you to look at is this customer profiling. You can talk about segmentation analysis. I think that's going too much in depth, whatever. This matters and predictive modeling matters.